Hey guys, we're starting off on a great foot here. Helen Hart-Smith here and
Cathy.
Coming at you with podcast number 212.
That's amazing.
What?
Yeah.
Heart of the Witch's Path YouTube channel, podcasting here, live from the Covenstead.
Yep.
So, Cathy and I, this is completely unscripted.
Yeah.
Let's preface this right
Although
now.
we talked about this for 5 minutes in the car while we ran to get Taco Bell.
Yeah, but we came to the understanding that if we hash things out too much,
Then we talk about the podcast as if it's the podcast before we record the podcast.
and then we forget half the stuff that we wanted to say in the podcast.
when
so
it's time to record the podcast.
Yeah, so the podcast becomes hopeless.
It becomes podcastless.
It's podcastless because we said all the stuff. So we're going to try to have this discussion without having prepped too much for it. So we'll see how it goes.
Sure.
But wait. First,
before we do anything,
we got business. What's the business?
We got business.
It's time for the Correspondence of the Week.
So, I think we should first say what this podcast is about and
Right.
what it's not about. So, this is not about Trump becoming president. We're going to avoid politics as much as we can.
Right.
But it is about staying safe and sane in the current climate and moving forward.
Right. So we
In
know
light
that,
of that.
we know that some of you are, scared and stuff like that out there. And so we want to provide some things to
Help us get through this.
some ideas, some thoughts.
Right.
So that leads us to the correspondence.
Right.
So little misintuitive over here.
Yeah, so we're talking about what correspondence should we use, and I went, what's the meaning for howlite? Because that's just kind of screaming at me. Maybe we should do that. And Helen, of course, looked it up, which is awesome. And she's going to tell us now. Oh, she's going to have me tell us now.
Well, guess what? There's two sentences.
Oh, okay.
So you can do one and I can do the second one. How's
Where's
that?
the first one?
Right here, facilitate.
Okay, so the howlite facilitates awareness, encourages emotional expression, and assists in the elimination of pain, stress, or rage.
Right. And howlite can also be used to reduce anxiety, to reduce tensions, and again, reducing stress.
Which is how we're going to help us stay safe and sane.
So maybe if you don't have any already, maybe you want to invest in some howlite jewelry.
Right. And it's a pretty common item. In fact, a lot of what's sold as turquoise is really howlite that's dyed. So you can find howlite at any place that sells rock chunks.
Right.
And it's a white stone with some, is it gray?
Gray or black kind of lines through it. So they're
marbleizing.
kind of marbleizing type thing. So so that is this week's Correspondence of the Week. So we want to talk about staying sane and safe in the climate. Like I don't want to say that we're in an insane situation because we just
And we don't really know how things are going to hash out because it's the early days yet. But but the things that have happened so far, it's easy to see where things could go out of control. And a lot of people are frightened and And
I think possibly with very sound and solid reason.
Right. So I don't ever want to say if you're in an unsafe situation to stay in it because that's just not. You can't do that. But so if you're in an unsafe situation, get away. Find someplace that is populated, someplace that is lighted. A police station is awesome. If you can't find that, then a lot of restaurants will offer a safe harbor. I know that Seattle is doing this big safe. Seattle Starbucks is doing this big safe harbor thing. So find.
Is that just Seattle?
Well, Seattle has this initiative for safety like that.
Okay.
And so the Starbucks there is really.
I thought that was
kicking in on that.
nationwide.
It could be nationwide, but the article I saw was just for this. They were buying into the Seattle version of it.
I saw an article, but I didn't get a chance to really read it. So
Right.
So I think that the biggest thing right now is to kind of, because there's so much uncertainty and nervousness and scaredness. I don't want to downplay anybody's emotions.
No.
Because everybody, how you feel, that is valid unto you.
Right.
And you have every right to express your concerns or your joys or what have you. So for me, I am looking at this situation and saying, okay, so obviously this chain of events started for some purpose.
Right.
So what's the purpose?
Right.
And what can be learned from this?
Because whenever there's a large negative event, a lot of times there's positive things that come out of it.
Right.
You see it a lot from people who have experienced a horrible event, kidnapping or, you know.
Or like the Orlando shooting.
Right.
Or
a lot
World
of times
War II.
There's positive things that come out of it.
Right.
Like,
So
there's a lot of laws that have been created due to negative things, like the Matthew Shepard laws.
Exactly.
Things like that.
Right.
So, yeah, it sucks to be us where we're at today, but we have to turn it around and look at the positive things that can come out of it.
So I will admit that Wednesday I was pretty numb and was just trying to like wrap my head around the entire situation.
So that would be the day after the election.
Exactly.
Right.
And so since then, since I, kind of shook off that haze, because I really feel like I was walking it, like Wednesday, nothing good happened on Wednesday. Like I was not productive in any way on Wednesday. And so then I started looking for what is to be learned from this. And I think that it's really safe to say that in these first few early days, there are definitely some positive things that are coming to happen for, like, I don't know, like, I don't want to give anybody a label, but like for liberals that, are finding themselves nervous for the future. Is that a fair?
Sure, because conservatives aren't nervous. They're happy.
Oh, yeah, they're happy.
Right.
So, as a liberal who is concerned about the future, I'm seeing that there is definitely some positive community things that are happening.
Right.
And, I am not just a pagan. I am not just a witch. There are a lot of things that make me who I am.
Right.
And so I cross spectrum look at things and stuff like that. And I'm seeing groups out there that are forming that are really being beacons of light.
Online and in person.
Exactly. So I would say that if you're nervous about your situation, and let's face it, there are many groups out there that should be nervous.
Right.
I don't know if should be is like
well,
right.
That have every reason to be nervous.
There we go. That's a good way to put it.
Right.
Women, minorities,
LGBT.
African American, LGBT, we're all kind of like wondering what are the next 4 years going to hold. And so I would suggest looking for these groups. If you're on Facebook, look on
they're
Facebook.
Out there. I'm sure they're on Tumblr. I'm sure they're everywhere.
Right.
It's just a matter of finding them. And they're even in local areas too. And it's just a matter of finding them. And,
right.
And sometimes you can go through some churches to find them. I'm sure local New Age stores would have some groups that are forming. If you can't find one, form one. Mm-hmm. Be the change you want to see. If you can't find what you're looking for, make it happen.
Right.
Form a group to help stop racism or sexism or anything like that.
Or just a group that is supportive and is a safe place to go.
Because not everybody is a trailblazer and let's go and let's pick it down in Lansing and
Right, exactly.
Not everybody's like that.
But some people just might need a place or a group that they can go to that they can feel safe.
Right. And you can find that online, or you can find it in person. And if you can't find it, form one.
And if you happen to be living in the Shiawassee County area.
Yeah, that's a perfect good example because we have a group that meets on the last Wednesday of the month. Right now we're meeting at Roma's. So if you're around at 6 o'clock on the last Wednesday of the month.
And if you live in, I guess I should, further clarify, Shiawassee County, Michigan.
Yeah.
Or the surrounding.
Areas. We're not really limiting it. I mean, if you want to take the drive to Shiawassee County, that's
from
totally,
wherever, then okay, we'd love to see you.
We'd love to see you.
But we meet at Roma's, which is a restaurant in Owasso.
Right. At 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock that last Wednesday. So the next one will be the 30th of November.
Right.
So if you're in that area, then we encourage you to come and join us. It is a safe place. It is,
and we are it's a pagan meetup, but we are more than welcoming to anybody who feels like they need somebody to talk to, because we do have such a diverse group. I mean, we have members that are minorities. We have a lot of women. We have men. We have LGBT people. I mean, if you need someplace to fit in, we can fit you in. Right.
Definitely. And so if you're not in Shiawassee County, Michigan, then, and you are a little bit more of I think it's safe to say that a marginal trailblazer could do what we've done.
Yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call us trailblazers, but, I think we did a podcast on this where we talked about how we formed this and,
Right.
So it's not that hard to do, and we're really not putting ourselves out there, other than the fact that we both are out of the broom closet, and so we're not really shy about who sees us. And, part of, I think, is what it's important to glean from this is we have to be out there. We have to show the example of, I am a witch and I am a woman, and there is nothing wrong with me.
And by we, you mean you and I.
Well, yeah. Yeah, because, I mean, whoever's comfortable. Not everybody's comfortable with being out of the broom closet.
Yeah, we're not saying you have to get out.
No, and there's some areas of the country where it's totally not safe to be a witch in population. But if you can do it, if your life and your family and your friend situation would support that, then do it. Be that example so that people... Be the light. So
don't let your light be extinguished.
So that people can see that being a woman and being a witch and being LGBT is not a bad thing. Because people are usually afraid of things that they don't understand. And they don't understand it because they've never seen it before.
Right. So if you put a face to the cause, then that personalizes.
Right.
The situation.
But the caveat to that is you have to set a good example.
Right. Right.
Right? You can't go out there talking about devil worship and, whatever, sacrificing babies or whatever.
Right.
And expect people to go, I'm down with that. A witch. Yeah, because that's not going to happen.
Right.
And maybe if you don't feel like you can blast out to everybody and, put on a big pentacle and say, I'm a witch, start small. You can have conversations with people like, well, is witchcraft really what you think it is? Do you know any witches?
Right.
How do you know that they worship? Is it because somebody told you that they worship the devil? Or have you experienced this because, I've read that they don't, and this is what I've read about it. You don't have to come out and say, I'm a witch.
Right. But you can share your knowledge.
Right. You can
because that's cool. That's cool. So I tell you what, I'm loving this whole safety pin.
Oh yeah. So this whole started in England because something about Brexit, I'm not sure. People are mad about people who didn't want Brexit or did want Brexit or whatever. So they started this safety pin campaign where you would wear a safety pin to give people the idea that you are a safe person to be with, talk to if you're feeling overwhelmed or if you're feeling threatened or harassed. So you would wear a safety pin to show, I am a safe person for you to come to. I am a safe person for you to discuss things with or to help you get away from somebody who's harassing you or whatever.
Right. Yeah, I like that. I need to remember to go get some out of my little drawer.
I know, I need to too.
And I think I told you this earlier. I think what I want to do is I want to have one that is the main one, but then I want to hang like a bunch of them off so I could like share.
Right.
Kind of a thing. So, yeah, I really like that. And I hope that motivation keeps going.
Right. And in some areas of the country, that might not be a big deal. I've never felt threatened or harassed because I'm a witch, except from my family. But my mom's still trying to convert me. Oh, my God. So, but that's not true for everyone. And that's not true for everyone in this area because there are some people we have somebody who comes to the Wednesday night that she doesn't think she could ever come out to her family because her parents are rabid Christians and they would not take it well,
Right.
So not everybody can come out and be loud and proud, but you can wear a safety pin so that if somebody needs help, if somebody needs someone to talk to or a safe harbor or something that to help them through this time, to keep them safe and sane, then that's a really good example.
Did you see the comic that was kind of going around Facebook that was if you see someone...
That went around a few months ago, is if you see somebody being harassed, how to handle it.
Right, and the person that was being depicted as being harassed was a Muslim.
Right.
And they were like on a bus or something.
With a hijab, she got a
bus.
Because
it was a little cartoony type thing, and I don't remember having seen that before.
I did. I shared it before several months ago, and I know you don't check your Facebook as much as.
Well, yeah, I'm not on Facebook as much as others,
but I know that I had seen it and shared it before.
Yeah, so I saw that again. Saw that going around, and again, kind of thing, and I appreciated that because it was like, if you witness someone, here are some things to keep in mind that you can do in that situation.
And in that particular situation, it would suggest that they approach the person being harassed and start a conversation with them.
About something completely random.
And just ignore the harasser completely. And eventually he'll go away because he's not being engaged.
Right.
Now, that's not always true. Sometimes a harasser will get violent. And you just have to stay safe. Because it doesn't help the person you're trying to help if you end up getting hurt.
Exactly. But there is power in numbers.
Right.
So that's helpful.
So much easier to harass the single person than it is to harass. And especially if they're being harassed because of their religion, if you look like a normal person.
Well, a person not of their religion. Right.
Then it's harder for them to be harassing to those two people when one of them is not the group that he's trying to harass.
Exactly.
Or she's trying to harass.
Yeah. So that's I hope that if the climate continues to be uncertain, I hope that these types of things, continue to circulate and, it stays fresh.
There's been several videos and stuff shared on Facebook too about how to handle when somebody's being harassed. So there's those things. But okay, those are all external things that we can do to be out in the community and to be helping others and to get together. But what can you do for yourself besides wear Howl Light?
Well, I got some stuff. So do you want to go first?
Well, I guess the only thing that I have is I'm ignoring everything on Facebook that's political because I don't want to drive myself insane. I'm not happy at what has happened in the election, but it is not my place to deride everyone else because they made their choice and the country as a whole made the choice. And so, it is what it is. So I'm avoiding all of the political posts. I'm not reading them. I'm not reading the articles. So that's part of what I can do. And I am, I think that meditation is another thing that can help keep us sane and centered and working with our deities and our guides to help us through this. That's another big thing. So Helen, what do you got?
Well, I actually did a meditation because, it was uncertain. I was feeling uncertain about where to go. And that was kind of like that. I think that was on Wednesday. That was Wednesday morning before, I woke up 6:00 to get ready for work. I, hit the Google just to see, because we stayed up all night. Well, not all night. We stayed up until 11 o'clock watching the results, and not much had really been resolved at that point.
Which is why we avoided it completely.
Right.
Had ice cream and, watched TV.
So there was nothing really said about before we went to bed. So, that was why I looked first thing and saw who the president-elect is and, felt the sinking of of the stomach and all that kind of stuff. And so that day I was like, I don't know if I can even meditate. And I'm like, no, you know what? You have to meditate. You have to keep your regular schedule. And so,
so not to interrupt, but that's another thing. You have to keep your regular life going.
Right. So I went into meditation, did a journey, and I got like the beginnings of what has become a mantra for me. In my blog post from this week, I'm going to call it this week still. But
the week of the election.
Yeah, the week of the election. I shared my mantra in that blog post, and I'll link. I don't know if did you read?
I read it.
Okay, good.
Because your blogs get emailed to me.
Right.
I read it.
Okay, well, just because they get emailed doesn't mean you read them. So I'm just.
I read them.
So the mantra is it a mantra or is it an affirmation? I don't know. But I am a witch, or I am a woman. I am a witch. I am a member of the LGBT community. I am a citizen, and my voice will not be silenced.
Let your light shine.
Right. And yeah, Christopher did some...
Christopher Penzak, for those of us who doesn't know that Helen's training under him.
So Christopher actually talked about, keeping your light going.
Right.
And being a beacon and being that person and us coming together, and being together and stuff in these questionable times. So
yeah, because it's really important to not stop being yourself, to not hide who you are, as long as it's safe, because I need to add that, because if we are driven back into the underground, then that's just not good for any of us. We're just starting over again. It's throwing everything back to the bad times, the burning times, the Holocaust, even if you want to go that far. We need to not be silent.
Right.
So, speaking of the Holocaust, so we need to stand up and be ourselves, but we also need to stand up and protect others, because what happens if you don't protect someone? Then nobody stands up for them. Then nobody stands up for the next group. There's a quote from Martin. I can't read this guy's last name, who was a minister and early Nazi supporter who was later imprisoned for opposing Hitler's regime. This is a pretty famous quote, and it was on the wall at the Holocaust Memorial in D.C. when we went. So it goes, first they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. Mm-hmm. So we have to keep that kind of thing in mind, too.
And I saw a meme with a quote from T. Thorne Coyle that really kind of hit home for me. No matter what happens, our work remains the same: to care for one another to the best of our abilities, to keep learning, to find our strength, to embrace and create beauty, to love.
Right.
So that's not going to stop.
Right.
Like you said, you continue with your schedule. You continue what you're doing.
Right.
And I think that's...
Don't let yourself be driven back into a hole just because the political climate has swung, And another thing that we should do, that every citizen should do, is to talk to your congressman, talk to your state representative, talk to your local political leaders, attend meetings for the Democratic Party, the Republican Party. Be involved in your local political scheme, because if you don't speak up for you, no one, other people are going to speak up too, but the more people who speak up, the louder our voices become, the better we're heard.
Right. And another big thing too to remember is, it sounds like there's, again, we're not even a week after the election.
Right.
So, there's still statistics that are going to come out about the election in the coming months and years.
The Electoral College hasn't even voted yet, although have never gone against the popular.
Right.
Right.
So, but they're saying that millennials did not come out.
Yeah, so what's up
vote.
with that shit?
Yeah, so what is that? And
Right.
and what could have happened in the election? And I think that happens all the time. And not that we really want to debate the election, but know that your voice
Right.
counts.
It does count. And they say that 2/3 of the voters, the people who could vote, don't vote.
Right.
And think of how many changes we could make if all of those people who didn't vote would vote.
Right, because we live in a democracy.
Right.
And we all have a voice. And if you don't use your voice, then you can't possibly be represented
Right.
in the democracy.
Right.
So that's...
Yeah, and I know nobody's happy with the Electoral College and the way that works, but, you know, if everyone voted, then everyone would have a say in how their state's electoral representatives vote. Mm-hmm. But if you don't vote, you don't get a say in that.
Right.
And it's not just the presidential election, though. It's all of the other races. It's the Senate. It's the Congress. It's the... You know, the
state
mayor, the state and local. It's everything that's on that ballot, and it's the other stuff they put on the ballot too, like the
proposals,
all the proposals. So if you don't vote, you don't get a say in that. So in my mind, you can't bitch about what the way things are going because you're not voting.
Right. Well, there's that, and of course, there's that whole how can that promotes safety, which is at the heart of what we wanted to kind of talk about in this podcast.
Right.
You know, we all have to participate to all be safe.
Right. Right. Because it's easier to pick on the individual than it is to pick on a group.
Right.
And if the group speaks up and refuses to be silenced, then it's harder to silence them.
Exactly.
Exactly. So keep your schedule going. Keep doing what you're supposed to be doing. Add in some meditation, maybe some working with stones like howlite or hematite, things like that. Mm-hmm. Make sure that you're safe when you're in public.
Mm-hmm. And be a place of safety for somebody else.
Right.
And look for groups. They're forming. They're coming out there. I know of at least 2. One of them is pagan. One of them is not pagan.
Right. That
want to be supportful areas for people to come to if they're grieving or scared or uncertain.
Yeah.
So.
And if you can't find one, create one. I mean, it's not that hard.
Right.
It's really not that hard.
It's really not.
Yeah. And I mean, it's easy to think that you're alone, that there's nobody out there like you. And that's true. There's nobody out there like you specifically. But there are other people out there who believe in the same things that you believe, who are LGBT or are pagan or are
African American,
right,
or are
Asian or whatever. There's groups out there that you can find or create to help support. But the big thing is to not be aggressive, to not cause problems. You can be
a part of the solution,
right? Not the problem. You can be out and loud and not be hurtful to other people,
right?
Because it would be easy to blame all of the group of people who voted for Trump of what's going to happen over the next 4 years.
But they participated in the system and they voted.
Right, and they didn't do it just to, make it life hard for everybody else. They thought it would make things better for everybody.
Right. So.
And it's going to be a while
before
see. We find out what happens.
Yeah, now another thing too that we didn't really talk about is now you hold that administration accountable.
Right. Right, that's very true. You have to hold them accountable for what they're doing.
Right.
If you have any questions or if
comments
in a
positive,
concerns,
a positive nature,
positive,
right?
If you want help trying to find a group, I'm not sure how helpful we can be, but I mean, we found a couple of Facebook groups, so maybe we could help with that, or check with your local New Age area, your ACLU. Your local Unitarian church might be a good place to check for a group.
Right. Yeah. So I think that's gonna be it for us today. Thanks.
So, subscribe if you haven't already. Like us if you've learned something. Don't forget that we also put these podcasts on iTunes and PodOmatic, as well as on YouTube. Please leave a review to help us out so that other people can hear our wonderful stories.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for walking the path for a little while with us. And until next time, blessed be.